The moment the words left Jungkook's lips, everything seemed to pause, at least for the fans who have followed every glance, every laugh, every shared stage between him and Jimin. I'm mesmerized by Jimin. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it, soft, almost reflective, like someone caught off guard by his own honesty. And just like that, a simple sentence turned into a wave that rippled across the entire fandom. But what does it really mean when Jungkook says he's mesmerized? Is it admiration? Is it deep friendship? Or is it something more layered, something that can't easily be defined by a single word? Fans didn't just hear a confession. They felt it. For years, the dynamic between Jungkook and Jimin has been one of the most talked about relationships within BTS. From playful teasing to emotional support, their bond has always stood out. There's a certain energy when they're together, something that feels both effortless and deeply intentional. And moments like this, where Jungkook openly expresses his feelings, only add more fuel to the curiosity. Think about it. How often do we hear someone like Jungkook, who is known for being relatively reserved about his emotions, speak so candidly? That alone makes this moment special. It's not just fan service. It feels genuine, almost spontaneous. And maybe that's why it hit so hard. Because when someone who doesn't always speak openly suddenly does, you listen more closely. You start to analyze every word, every pause, every subtle expression. What exactly about Jimin leaves Jungkook mesmerized? Is it his stage presence? That undeniable charisma that seems to command attention the moment he steps into the spotlight? Or is it something quieter, something behind the scenes that fans rarely get to see? Jimin has always been known for his duality. On stage, he's intense, powerful, almost otherworldly. Off stage, he's warm, caring, and deeply empathetic. That contrast alone is enough to draw people in. But for someone like Jungkook, who has grown up alongside him, the admiration likely runs even deeper. They've shared years of training, countless performances, and moments of vulnerability that the public will never fully understand. So when Jungkook says he's mesmerized, it doesn't feel superficial. It feels earned. And fans? They noticed that. Social media exploded almost instantly. Clips were replayed. Translations were analyzed. Comments poured in from all over the world. Some fans were emotional, others excited, and many simply stunned. Because even though everyone has seen their bond, hearing it put into words is different. It makes it real in a way that visuals alone never could. But let's pause for a second and ask something deeper. Why does this kind of moment resonate so strongly with people? Maybe it's because, at its core, it reflects something universally human. Admiration, connection, the quiet acknowledgement that someone matters to you in a way that goes beyond the surface. We all have someone who inspires us, someone who leaves us in awe, someone who we can't quite explain but can't ignore either. And seeing that mirrored in people we look up to makes it feel more tangible, more relatable, more real. Jungkook's words weren't just about Jimin. They were about that feeling. And that's powerful. But there's also another layer to consider. The way fans interpret these moments. In a world where every interaction is dissected and discussed, it's easy for meanings to evolve beyond what was originally intended. Some fans see romance, others see brotherhood, and many simply see a deep and meaningful friendship. And honestly, maybe it doesn't have to be defined. Maybe the beauty of it lies in its ambiguity, because not everything meaningful needs a label. Sometimes, the strongest connections are the ones that exist somewhere in between. And Jungkook's confession feels like one of those moments. It doesn't demand an explanation. It invites interpretation. It opens the door for emotion rather than closing it with definition. And that's exactly why it continues to live in the minds of fans long after the moment itself has passed. But let's not ignore the impact this has on their image as artists. Moments like these humanize them. They remind fans that beyond the performances, the awards, and the global fame, they are still individuals with real feelings and real connections. And in an industry that can often feel distant or manufactured, that authenticity stands out. It builds trust. It deepens loyalty. It strengthens the bond between artist and audience. Because when fans see genuine emotion, they respond with genuine support. And that's something you can't fake. It's also worth considering how this reflects on Jungkook's growth as a person. Over the years, he has evolved from the youngest member who often stayed quiet into someone who is more comfortable expressing himself. Moments like this are small, but they're significant. They show confidence. They show self-awareness. They show emotional maturity. And perhaps most importantly, they show that he's not afraid to be vulnerable. That kind of growth doesn't happen overnight. It's shaped by experiences, by relationships, by time. And Jimin has been part of that journey from the very beginning. So in a way, Jungkook's words are not just a reflection of how he sees Jimin now, but also a reflection of everything they've been through together. And that adds even more weight to the statement, because it's not just about admiration in the present. It's about appreciation built over years. But here's another question. What does Jimin think about all of this? How does it feel to be on the receiving end of that kind of admiration? Jimin, who is known for being both humble and emotionally expressive, has often spoken about his love and respect for the members. He's someone who values connection deeply. So hearing something like that from Jungkook likely means more than we can fully understand. And while fans may never get a direct response that matches the intensity of Jungkook's words, the way Jimin interacts with him, the smiles, the laughter, the quiet moments, often says enough. Because sometimes actions speak louder than words. And in their case, those actions have been consistent for years. Which brings us back to the fans. Why do these moments stay with us? Why do they matter so much? Maybe it's because they offer a glimpse into something real in a world that often feels curated. Maybe it's because they remind us that even people who seem larger than life still experience the same emotions we do. Or maybe it's simply because they're beautiful, simple, honest, and unfiltered. And in a time where authenticity is rare, that kind of beauty stands out. But it also comes with responsibility. As fans, it's important to appreciate these moments without overstepping boundaries, to celebrate the connection without imposing narratives that may not reflect reality, to enjoy the emotion without turning it into pressure. Because at the end of the day, these are real people with real lives. And their relationships, whatever form they take, deserve respect. So perhaps the best way to respond to Jungkook's confession isn't to define it, but to feel it, to appreciate it for what it is. A moment of honesty, a glimpse of connection, a reminder that even in the spotlight, genuine emotion still exists. And maybe that's enough. Or maybe it's more than enough. Because in a single sentence, Jungkook managed to spark conversation, emotion, and reflection across millions of people. That's not just influence. That's impact. And it raises one final question. What other moments like this are we missing? What other quiet confessions are hidden in the noise, waiting to be noticed? Because if one simple statement can create this much resonance, imagine what else is out there. Moments that haven't gone viral, words that haven't been translated, expressions that haven't been analyzed. And maybe that's part of the magic. Not everything is meant to be captured. Some things are meant to be felt in the moment and remembered quietly. But when those moments do surface, like this one did, they remind us why we pay attention in the first place, why we watch, why we listen, why we care. Because sometimes in the middle of everything, something real slips through. And when it does, it stays with us. So now it's your turn. What do you think Jungkook really meant? Was it pure admiration, deep friendship, or something more complex? Do you think moments like this are rare, or do they happen more often than we realize? And most importantly, why do you think this one hit so differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective might reveal something others haven't even considered yet. And if you enjoy exploring these kinds of meaningful, emotional moments in the world of BTS, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because there are so many more stories waiting to be uncovered, and you won't want to miss what comes next.